Hi guys, so this is the second part of our video. In the previous video I read through the 5 sources and give a little bit of detail around them, and this time what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the sample answers that were given in by one of the students here and how they answered them and expand a little bit more on the detail that's there. So I'll link below the previous video with the reading of the sources. So according to source 1, what does this medieval manuscript believed is the cause of the plague? So the answer down here, you can see the medieval manuscript believed that the corrupt and infected air was the cause of the plague. Again, perfect answer. It's really just throwing back the information back at the person who's asked the question. According to source 1, what does this medieval manuscript advise people to do to escape the plague? Again, the medieval manuscript gives advice to the people about how to escape the plague by fleeing to a new place with healthy air. So this is something that they would have believed at the time as well. Okay, using source 2, list 3 things that the people believed caused the plague according to this source. So we're on to a new source here. It says 3 things people believed caused the plague according to this source were the vapors coming from lakes and bogs, the wrath of God because of the sins in mankind, and the coming together of the planets. Perfect answer. Some people got confused on this and they went in and took the information from the wrong source. So always when you're answering, guys, just make sure you're sure of the question. Using source 2, make sure that you read the question and that you're taking your information from the right place. Next question, what is discrimination against Jewish people called? And again, of course, this is anti-Semitism. I talked a little bit in the source video about how we can track these prejudices throughout history. So we can track misogyny, we can track anti-Semitism, and by being able to see where these things originated and how they grew legs, we can really see the ridiculousness of these types of prejudices. Like the origin, how ridiculous the origin is. It's not ridiculous for the people who are suffering this prejudice. It's ridiculous for the people who are engaged in prejudicing against these people. Okay. So, question 5, according to source 3, how did people think that Jewish people caused the plague? People thought that Jewish people caused the plague because they hated the Jews and accused Jews of putting poison in the water and wells. Okay, fantastic answer. It actually gives 2 reasons as to why people thought the Jews caused the plague. According to source 3, why did the Jews admit to poisoning the wells in Bern and Zofingen? They were tortured into admitting it. This is given from the text as well. So according to source 3 again, how many people were burned on the platform on St. Valentine's Day in 1349? And there was 2,000 people were burned on the platform that day. According to source 4, what percentage of Europe's population died from the Black Death? It was about 60%. Okay. According to source 4, roughly how many people in Europe died from the Black Death? That was 50 million people. So that's 60% of the population, which was 50 million people. According to source 5, what did the citizens mainly do? The citizens mainly carried dead bodies to be buried. Okay, again taken straight from the source. According to source 5, what did they do with the people who died during the night? The people that died in the night were quickly bundled up and thrown into a pit, and in the morning they took earth and shoveled it down on top of them. Very good answer. Again, it's really elaborating on the question and giving the full detail of the answer. Then our next question is, what is a primary source? Of course, it is a source that comes from the time. Then we're looking to tick the sources that are primary sources. So source 1, which was adapted from a medieval manuscript, which would have been from the time, and source 5, which was an account from Florence at the time. So these are our primary sources. Then what is a secondary source? So that is a source that is written after the time it happened. And again, we're looking to tick the sources that are secondary sources, and that would have been source 2, which is adapted from a modern history book, source 3, which is taken from a website about the cremation of Strasbourg Jewry at St. Valentine's Day on 1349, and then source 4, which is taken from a history magazine called History Today. Finally, are these sources useful in studying the Black Death? And give 2 reasons for your opinion. I always found these questions very difficult because you got to put yourself in kind of a different mental space when you're answering these questions to get into it. and really look deeply at how useful this is and how it helps our understanding. And there's a very good answer given here. It says these sources are helpful for studying the Black Death because it has a lot of the main information about the Black Death. So it's varied in that it has about the deaths and burials, it has about the persecution of the Jews in it, it has about people's beliefs at the time, how people tried to escape what was going on as well. So they're varied and has a lot of the main information. It's also easy to understand so you can remember it better. So much of learning is about connecting with the material, and if you can find the material interesting, so sometimes like a source document talking about how people believed that the Jews were responsible for this poisoning of people, it can really strike you as something that really piques your interest in it, and to see how did people begin to believe that. And the more you connect with sources like this, it makes it easier to retain the information and to learn about it. So hopefully that was helpful in showing you guys how we work with sources and how to answer those specific questions.